This lesson is about a grammar rule that is very confusing in real life, but very simple on the SAT. Even if you've never heard the word appositive before, you've almost certainly used appositives in your own writing. Here's a sentence with a clear appositive between two commas. Jimmy, my best friend from high school, just moved to Oklahoma. Appositives allow us to include two ways of identifying or describing the same thing, usually a person. To help us keep this rule simple and focused on the SAT, let's think of appositives like a dictionary. We have the specific term that we would be looking up in the dictionary, and then we have the more descriptive definition of that term. In this case, Jimmy is the term because he's the specific person we're talking about. The author defines Jimmy as my best friend from high school. In real life, the rules for appositives are way more complicated. To choose the right punctuation, we have to decide whether the appositive is restrictive or non-restrictive. And sometimes the exact same sentence can have different punctuation depending on what the author wants the words to mean. But on the SAT, we can't have any uncertainty or subjectivity. There cannot be two correct answers, so they will only give us situations where there is zero doubt about what the sentence means. What's more, in real life, the SAT's rules for appositives are actually controversial. Supposedly, the New York Times, America's most famous newspaper, forbids its journalists from using the kinds of appositives that we'll regularly see on the SAT. So if you're curious about grammar, you can spend all day researching appositives on the internet. But if you just want some easy points on the SAT, then here's the rule to follow. If the term comes before the definition, then put two commas around the definition. But if the definition comes before the term, then we shouldn't use any commas at all. Of course, the SAT will offer you both options every time. Let's see an example of each version. This first sentence is similar to the one we started this lesson with. The award given to Hiroshi Tanaka, a molecular biologist, came with a monetary prize. The more specific term is the name Hiroshi Tanaka. The sentence defines him as a molecular biologist. Since the term came before the definition, we use two commas to separate the definition from the rest of the sentence. However, we could rewrite the sentence very slightly to see how the other version of the appositive would work. The award given to molecular biologist Hiroshi Tanaka came with a monetary prize. This time, the definition comes first. The main term is still Hiroshi Tanaka, but we're using his definition as a title that leads into his name. In these cases, we do not use commas. Let's look at a full question. You can already tell from the answer choices that we'll need to decide whether we need commas. Let's read the sentence first, and we can include the words from the choices in the blank since they don't change at all. Supposedly, Finnish mineralogist Niels Gustaf Nordenskjöld discovered the rare gemstone alexandrite in a sample from a recently opened emerald mine. To me, the specific term is clearly alexandrite, and we're defining it as a rare gemstone. Since the definition comes first, we don't need any commas. Choice D is correct. But notice that choice A is right at the top to tempt us, because the SAT knows that we often use two commas for appositives in our own writing. That's because most people default to putting the term first, followed by the definition. So we formed a habit of using the two commas, not realizing that there was another way we could write appositives. In my opinion, we really only want to put the definition first if it's relatively short, just 1 to 3 words. If the definition is long, put the term first, just like in an actual dictionary, and use the two commas to put the definition in its own separate clause. But just be careful not to rely too heavily on the appositive rule on the SAT. Here's a similar sentence, but I've changed the ending slightly. Supposedly, Finnish mineralogist Niels Gustaf Nordenskjöld discovered the rare gemstone alexandrite, which was mixed in a sample of emeralds. The appositive rule has not changed. Alexandrite is our main term and rare gemstone is our definition, so we don't need commas. However, we also have a which clause attached to the end of the sentence, and which clauses typically get commas. So in this case, choice B is correct. But to be clear, the only reason the comma is there at the end is because of the which clause, not because of the appositive. This is a good reminder of an overall SAT strategy. Most punctuation rules are simple and straightforward, just like the appositive rule in this lesson. But the SAT is very good at combining multiple rules in one question so that it's harder to decipher which rules matter. But now that you know how to identify and punctuate appositives, you can confidently solve that aspect of the question and then navigate any other rules that might be layered in. For lessons on those other punctuation rules, make sure you subscribe to the Settele Tutoring channel. Thanks for watching!